The very first thing that we're going to do is evaluate and assess your ability to focus and measure your energy level. So take 5 seconds, rate from 1 to 10 your energy level, and then your ability to focus. 5. I don't know who put this show together, but at least I didn't say 5 minutes, right? All right, when you got those numbers, turn to somebody and report out what your numbers are, what your level of energy and your ability to focus right now. Take 5 seconds. All right, that was 5 seconds. My name is Michael Polacek. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a professional development specialist in clinical education at Salem Health. Not everybody can define transformational leadership. And not everybody is competent. Uh-oh. I'm already getting, like, honoring some kind of a things. I'll take fruit and things, too. Transformational leadership is a powerful tool. And as you develop your skills at being a transformational leader, you'll find that your life, your professional and your personal life, will be a lot better. You'll look better. You'll drive a nicer car. You'll eat pizza and you won't gain weight. All sorts of things happen to transformational leaders. As you develop that skill, because it is a skill, it's not something you're born with, you'll find that people will come to you rather than hide when you walk into the room. Today, Walt and I are going to present transformational leadership. We're going to endorse the idea, but we're also going to give you some things to hold your hats on, some things to grasp, because transformational leadership may be a little bit fuzzy to you. We'll show you how you can apply some of the concepts, processes of transformational leadership. And what we're going to do at the end is we're going to inspire you and challenge you to take on a continual effort to become a transformational leader. Because like I said, you could eat pizza and not gain weight. But before we do that, you have to have a self-assessment. So you all should have clickers, should have a piece of paper. I don't know if you need the paper or not. But here are the rules with the clickers so we don't have any confusion. When this 10, that blue 10 shows up on the slide, it'll start a countdown. You have 10 seconds to make a selection. Your first selection counts. You can't do over. If you pick a 5, it won't count because there are no 5s. And your clicker will show green if you get it right. You ready? How often do you let go of things others can do? Oh, look at that. Sometimes. That's absolutely okay. Number 2, how often do you encourage initiative, ideas, and risk-taking? Oh, usually. Number 3, how often do you ensure that people have goals and know how they're doing? Sometimes, usually. Number 4, how often do you delegate, challenge, develop, and empower others? Number 5, how often do you coach to ensure success? You hear the quiet? That's studiousness right there, baby. Oh, usually. Number 6, how often do you reinforce good work and good attempts? Usually, always. That's a good sign. Number 7, how often do you share information, knowledge, and skills? In other words, do you despise silos? Ooh. Number 8, how often do you value, trust, and respect each individual, not just people, but individual situations? Not bring back old things, but look at it from fresh eyes. Number 9, how often do you provide support without taking over? All the nurses go, look at that. Yeah, usually. Last question, how often do you practice what you preach? Groan, that's a groan one. Look at that. Great, so that's all we're going to do with self-reflection. Research shows us that transformational leadership is the very best approach to leading. There's no question about it. But how prepared are you to lead? And what is leadership? I mean, if you really think about it, leadership is a combination of supporting a structure. That's why we have this term called structural empowerment. Leaders support the environment, the structure behind what takes place. But also, there's relationships, and there's also processes. That's why this presentation is called Transformational Lean Leadership, because lean is how do we do the things that we do the best way that we can, but without support of that structure and without adequate, effective relationships. You can see the guy on the front here, he's got his own process. Now, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, 1960s and 70s. And you can see that back in those days, we had a cool way that we dressed and danced and all that stuff. So there was this freedom, but there was also this authoritarianism that we struggled with. And so I still have this anti-disestablishmentarianistic approach. Whenever I hear somebody who's got this edge of authoritarianism, it kind of just irritates me a little bit. So how important is it leadership? Well, we know that the form and style of leadership directly impacts all outcomes. It impacts staff satisfaction as well as patient satisfaction. It's important. But it's also important for us to understand why we need a certain style. Why is it important to even think about a style? Well, in the olden days, we had a traditional approach to processes and leadership. There was a straight linear approach to how you create things, factories. They even do that at Burger King and all that. There's still this linear process. And in that environment, they found that if you were a transactional leader, in other words, somebody who says, if you do this, then we'll all get along. But that's a natural thing to do. We do a sense of transactional leadership. I'm going to talk about those two terms today, transactional and transformational leadership. Worked well then. Unfortunately, we don't live there. We live in a complex adaptive system of healthcare. Every one of those dots is a critical piece in the entire system. With authoritarianism and transactional leadership, you can work on some processes, but I got to tell you that each of these dots, regardless of role, has a direct influence on how well our system works. So in a sense, every one of these dots within a system is a leader in some cases, in all forms. If you can hear me today, you're a leader. So we're not going to talk about, oh wait, I skipped the thing here. I want to go about this. Leaders, as far as developing the environment, this is important. I took a couple of selfies. And you can tell that the process of shaving works whether you use shaving cream or soap or not. Now, it's a little rougher if you don't. If you do, two cool things happen. First of all, you get a little excited, you want to go a little bit farther with it. The second thing that happens is your tool lasts a lot longer. Now think of that in terms of systems. If the system's effective, if the leadership has established an environment that supports this, your tool lasts longer. We eliminate burnout. We improve satisfaction. Is that important these days? Yes, it is. There was a fella, James McGregor Burns, who back in the 70s took a solid look at leadership, wrote a book called Leadership. He was an expert at leadership, and he was a presidential biographer. And he examined all these basically political leaders. And he found that there were essentially 3 types of leadership styles. The first 2 matter with us, laissez-faire, which is more or less, hey, whatever happens, I'm cool with that. We're not going to talk about that today because in healthcare, we don't really go that way. But the first 2 are important. Transactional leadership is a very effective and important approach to making sure that systems and processes flow. We have to make sure our processes and systems are right. That's why we have standards of practice, standards of care. Have to have standards. It's critical. Transformational leadership, on the hand, has to rely on relationship as well as processes because they know that creating an environment along with effective relationships will support better practices. Burns came up with this definition. It's to engage with others in such a way that leaders and their followers raise one another. Now, I left the E out initially when I put this together, and it reads really different without the E. I kind of giggled to myself. You probably won't, but I thought it was funny. Leaders and their followers raise one another, I'll say that again, to higher levels of morality and motivation. Those 2 things are important. Motivation is critical. Here's transactional leadership. It's important in what we do. And here's a typical grocery list of the things that transactional leadership is very effective at. Planning, budgeting, establishing agendas, controlling, identifying, problem solving, a very systematic approach to things. But you can see that not always is relationships a part of this. Here's another way to look at it. Transactional leaders supervise people. They rely heavily on external motivations, while transformational leaders, they strive to create and endorse and support internal motivation. Don't you like to be internally motivated? Here's a definition that I came up with. It's a little simpler. Leaders and followers make each other advance to a higher level of morality and motivation. It's a shared process. It's not hierarchical. And what we're not talking about today is this idea of leadership as a role. Is leadership a role, or is it a concept? Is it a mental image? Well, there is a role for leadership. That's our supervisory hierarchy. Our governance structure has a certain span of control, supervisory positions, and accountabilities that are part of the role of being a leader. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this concept of how do you lead. There's 4 eyes. If you were to look at somebody and say, oh, I know what that is. That's transformational leadership. Here's some things you might see. Individualized consideration. You'll look at somebody fresh eyes, as if you've never seen them before, and be curious. Listen to what they have to say in a new situation that's not the same one you had 3 months ago. Intellectual stimulation. A transformational leader is excited about newness. They're intellectually honest. They want to hear the truth because their goal is not to be the smartest person in the room. It's not the person that's right. It's the person that gets to the best outcome. So they're not influenced by other people getting in their way or defying them. Inspirational motivation. Transformational leaders love to be inspired. They seek out people who are inspirational because they love the sense of inspiration. They love idealizing and creating something better than what they have. Here's some qualities you might observe so you can differentiate between that sense of authoritarianism and true transformational leadership. You ever walked into a room and felt like you had to say, may I say something, without feeling like you're being unpatriotic? You ever talked with somebody who's more interested in commanding and controlling? Now, as a leader, we command. Sometimes we command. We say things that have to happen. We direct people. But a transformational leader will seek just as much to get input because they want the best outcome, not to be right. Is there a spirit of authority or a spirit of inquiry? Curiosity. Does a leader tell you what to do, or are they curious about your input? Is there a reward system that's based on compliance? Or are you rewarded for innovation and inquiry and thinking outside the box? Maybe that won't work today. Put that in the parking lot. Maybe develop that in your own time. Maybe we can return to that. Have something that's safe. You ever had somebody that slapped the table and said, this is the way we do it? End of discussion. This is a great video. You've probably seen it. I've seen it probably 20 times. This is a transformational leader. If you guys want to know how to do it, then you need to know where this guy lives. Because I guarantee you it's probably Portland. I know it's not over in Amityville. So he's transforming. He's internally maybe stimulated, but he's certainly internally motivated. However you want to read it. There's something about it that was attractive. That's the idea of magnetism. You're drawn to something. This other guy doesn't know what he's doing. And if you notice, that was the only time that he showed him how to do the hand thing. He said, try the hand thing, and then he walked off. A transformational leader is not concerned so much about control. It's motivating somebody else to figure out what the best way to do a thing. He figured this out, and he is so amazing that, watch this. You'll never believe what happens. Somebody else becomes interested as well. He's going, I want to do that. He's so excited, he has to roll down into the creek and cool off. He'll be back. And they're going at it, and this woman in blue, she's going, I'm not part of this, but I'm creeping into the safe spot, and I'm going to make sure that this is recorded for history. Going right to the Smithsonian Congress. And now you look. Now we're not even a minute into this video. And this guy is just still doing his thing. They're all not doing the exact same move, but they're doing their own thing, and it's similar. There's this sense of contagion. And now as you watch, people don't walk up, they run. It's like they've been waiting since 4th grade for this event. Finally, it's happened. It's the dancing guy, and they all want to be that. Pretty soon you won't see it, but there's an entire bus load of libertarians that show up. There's some balloons from New Mexico that got blown off, and they're dumping people left and right here. Pretty soon, but what you'll notice is that there was one guy, and he changed, first of all, the environment, and I guarantee that all these people will never forget this event. There's something inspiring about that. Now, on the other hand, transactional leadership, just do what I say and we'll both get along. You'll trust me later. Now, who doesn't want to be that clay? I didn't make that song up, in case you're curious. We can't think differently unless we change the way that we see things. So it's important when we talk and think about this concept of transformational leadership. We have to adjust, get rid of our past experiences and our past biases on what we believe in a thing, and seek out what it really means. Transformation, why do we use that word? This is what it's about, change and movement. The opposite of movement is death, right? At the cellular, at the molecular level. If there's no movement, there's death. So there has to be constant change. That is normal. Change is normal. Change is real life. So within that structure, we know that we have to transform our behaviors and our thoughts to align with this complex adaptive system, which is constantly changing. We empower people? Do we build coalitions? Do we inspire and energize? Clarify a big picture? Create relationships? How do you do that? Excuse me. Well, you need to know more. If you're not an expert transformational leadership, you need to know more. You need to apply those principles into your everyday life, not just at work, every day, because it's a way to think. And remember, you'll be able to eat pizza without gaining weight, so don't forget that piece. Set goals. If you don't have a goal set to improve yourself, you're not going to get there. Now, you may say, okay, I can do an hour a month. Do an hour a month. Set a goal. 1 hour every single month. I'm going to focus on becoming a transformational leadership. If you like that term, you'll like Rosemary Parsi's nursing theory on human becoming. It's not an event. It's a continual process where we are continually seeking to improve ourself, our humanity, and our transformational skills, because we want to transform those things around us. Here's another definition. It reads a lot like the other one. Leaders and followers make each other advance to a higher level of morality and motivation. In fact, it's exactly the same if you're taking notes. If you say it out loud, you'll remember it. Leaders and followers motivate each other. Why do that? Why is that important? Well, the goal is to reach higher levels of inspiration and performance. Who doesn't want to perform at the best place and be inspired while doing that? Who doesn't want that? To do that, you have to have a commitment of some sort going back to your goals. You have to commit to something in life. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. But you're in charge of that. No one can make you become a transformational leader. It's something that internally you have to say to yourself, that's something I really like. That's something, and not only that, I want to find people that are like that too, like the dancing guy. And you know, I found a few people. I love spending time with Nancy here. She just seems to be inspirational. Walt, first time I met this guy, I thought, I want to be like Walt. I haven't become like Walt, but I want to be, I'm in the process, Walt. He just has the stuff that I want to be. You have to be inspired. You have to commit to something and move towards that. But it's up to you. How do you do that? Well, you can develop your communication skills. These two books are nice. They read very well. They're simple enough to where you can apply what they teach easily. You also have to have some sort of a grounding mechanism. Now, as a nurse, Tim Porter O'Grady, everything he writes, you know how you underline stuff? Well, I had to stop underlining because everything would be underlined. So I only underlined stuff I didn't care about, because there wasn't many underlines in his books. So when you see my book of his, there's a point like halfway through the book where there's no underlines because it's all so perfect. This is my touchstone. Leadership in nursing practice. That's for nurses. It's basically focused on how, as a nurse, can you develop your leadership skills. It's a great book. It's a how-to. This other book, Quantum Leadership, is high level. It's hard to read, but the concepts are amazing. I can only go like 45 minutes or an hour reading, and I got to put it away. It's just too much. But it's powerful for everybody. It's not about healthcare. It's not about any particular industry. It's about leadership in this day and age of complex adaptive systems. If you're here, you're a leader, remember? And as a leader, you have a duty to make a difference. Einstein said, you should always put back more than what you brought. We need to continually remind ourselves that we have a duty to make a difference. Leadership's not ordinary. Yeah, you can be in a managerial role in a position, but leadership is not ordinary. Do you have a purpose? If you do not have a major, definite purpose, you're never going to get there. Do you have a purpose?
Do you feel like life has a purpose?
I do.
I think so. I'm here to make people happy and smile.
Educate and entertain.
To marry my woman.
Being a mother to my 2 children.
Different times in your life, you have different purposes.
Spiritually, emotionally.
Personal, professional.
I think I'm still trying to figure that out, my purpose.
My challenge sometimes can be figuring out which one I want to care about most today.
I'm only 14, so I don't really know what my purpose is at the moment.
Still looking though.
I think most people equate their purpose to monetary ambitions.
There's something deeper than, what kind of car you drive and how nice you look.
I love to inspire, motivate, and encourage people.
Whenever I can, to be a mentor.
Being available to help someone in their journey.
Because I feel like there are a lot of people in this world that are lost and don't have anyone there for them.
The purpose of your life is sort of defined by your actions and by the manner in which you've lived.
I'm here to help inspire other people to live life to their fullest.
Like, I meant to be nice with everyone.
Open a world to empathy.
At this point in my life, I'm feeling like, who knows?
And as I'm getting older, I'm definitely trying to figure out more and more.
Because there are many people whose career and how they make a living, where their passion is and what they're good at is actually their job.
I feel like I have a purpose in life because I just want to keep on moving forward.
Always learning, growing.
I think it's just that journey and the curiosity about life.
Do what you're passionate about. Don't just get caught up in that sort of, hamster wheel of getting by.
I really love animals.
Writing, just storytelling.
To share my gifts and talents with other people.
Figure out how I can live to be at least 110.
Making people laugh and having fun.
I believe my purpose is to have children
and I'm very excited for that.
The purpose of life is to experience it, enjoy opportunities, and also recognize that there's going to be hills and valleys.
Take advantage of being alive.
Exchange as much love as you can while you're here.
To live the best life you can with as most enthusiasm as you can so that other people will benefit by your having lived.
So pancake. And you don't gain weight from eating pancakes too. So my closing remark is you have to commit if you're interested in becoming the best leader that you can. And without becoming a transformational leader, you will never become a full leader in healthcare because that's what it requires.